And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Knowles coming at you for the RBLR Sports Podcast. I am here tonight covering the Rowdies, as I usually do. And as per usual, I am here with my co-host, Carlos Rueda. Carlos, how are you doing this week on Tuesday?
James, these are busy times indeed. Apologize for my absence last week. I mean, again, I'm in the middle of finals right now. Really glad to be going home this week, though. On Saturday, I'll be back home in the Bay Area. So it'll be a blast. Looking forward to the summer break. I've been cranking out papers left and right up here in DC. I think I totaled my page count between the two papers I've written over the past 36 hours at 25 pages. I feel so tired.
Yeah.
It's just draining, and there's 2 more days of it, but we're almost through. And at the end of that is another Rowdies game to talk about. So, but before we do that, I'm excited to talk about this past game. I mean, there's a lot to break down there. Really exciting stuff. I think you can tell just from the vibe of the intro and the vibe of the episode already that it's gone much better than some of our past results. So, yeah, I'm excited to talk about that. But again, before we do that, James, what's going on down there? What's going on in your life?
Well, it's May, so I guess it is officially the hot season. It's in the 90s every day, and that kind of sucks. But, the Rowdies guys, I believe that they get to train in the morning before it gets too hot, so that's probably beneficial to them because otherwise I don't think you could train in the middle of the day. I get home and I'm like, oh, I should go for a run, but it's a billion degrees, so I'm going to not do that at this moment. And then, hopefully it happens in the morning, I guess. But to get back to the Rowdies, who do train in the mornings like I would like to do, they did have a game this past weekend, and they have a game coming up this weekend, both of which, like you said, Carlos, we need to cover. So let's get into that here. In this past weekend, the Rowdies hosted Phoenix Rising and ended up winning 2-0. That is obviously very positive because we were dealing with a relatively rough start to the season, and now that is not only 2 wins in a row, but it is 2 shutouts in a row, and I think things are looking up. RBLR Rowdies Cup standings. The guest spot right now is currently at 6 points, so the guest spot is leading. Good job to all of our guest predictions. You are killing it. Right now, Carlos, you are on 5. I am on 4, and Eureka has moved up to 2 points. So congratulations to pretty much everyone this week. We also have to do a preview for this weekend's home game. Just like you said, Carlos, we are playing against Detroit City. Now, we just played them, so it'll be a little bit easy for us to do, our preview again. And we generally have a similar idea of how they're going to play in terms of tactics. And I think that'll obviously serve us and the team pretty well. Now, going forward, I also want to say RBLR is hosting our first watch party of the show, actually. It's not just of the year, it's of the show. It's our first ever watch party. It will be May 20th, and we are playing RGV Toros away. So RBLR will be hosting the watch party at Berry House. You can see it right there. Please show up because you will be able to take part in not only all of these things like a free beer giveaway, multiple free beer giveaways. There will be halftime donated from the team, there will be a halftime swag giveaway. There will be swag donated from the team. The halftime is not donated by the team, but the swag is, and it will be given out at halftime. And there will also be beer specials. Now, I do want to say the kickoff has been moved to 8:30, so just keep in mind that when you see it says 7:15, move that back 1 hour. The live pregame show will start at 8:15, and then obviously the watch party itself will start at 8:30. So just keep that in mind. We will update the poster that you see right here, but at the same time, I am telling it to you now, so keep that in your head. Carlos, let's go ahead and move into our Phoenix Rising recap here. Let's go over quickly go over the game that was, and then you and I can get into some actual questions and analysis.
Totally. James, I'm so excited to talk about this game. I have been thinking about this for the past few days when I'm not thinking about my papers. So much to break down here. I'm just really, really happy with how it went. But yeah, I'll just jump into the lineup as per usual. We'll jump into it with the starting 11, which included Sparrow in goal, as has become regular. Antley, Kleeman, Lasso, and Guillen making up that back line. Neil Collins going back to that 4 defender formation. 2 center backs, 2 fullbacks. Kind of switching up the vibe from last season where he kind of stuck with that 3 center back formation. Continuing the 4 defender trend for another game against Phoenix. Ekra and Doherty made up that midfield unit. In front of them were Harris, Dennis, and Spaulding. And the main striker this evening was JJ Williams, who notched his first goal for the Tampa Bay Rowdies in the USL Championship. So really, really good to see. JJ scored first in the 10th minute off of a fantastic play. Great interplay there between Spaulding, Dennis, and just a beautiful cross from Spaulding right on the money. JJ Williams with the easiest header of his life. Really just had to make contact with it and put that away to get his first goal. And after that, Charlie Dennis won a free kick and then put in just a dime of a free kick right over the wall, straight past the goalie. Really, if I recall correctly, the goalie didn't even try to dive for it. It was just so perfectly placed. And it's a really, really tough spot because of how close the free kick was to the edge of the box. It's always tough to get enough speed on it while also being able to get the ball up and down quick enough to get that goal. Charlie Dennis didn't put really much speed on it at all. It was just perfectly placed. No effort to make that save. And Dennis put the team up 2-0. Despite a red card for Phoenix off of, I think it was Conway, who came in and immediately got a red card like a minute later. There were no more goals in this game, and the Rowdies took 3 points and a 2-0 win. Much slower second half. First half, tons of action. James, let's jump into that and kind of break it down by half then. That first half of the game, we went up 2-0, scored both of those goals that kind of took us on to that 2-0 win. Let's break down this half a little bit. A lot to talk about. What did you see tactically? What went on in this first half that led us to that 2-goal lead and eventually the win?
Well, actually, Carlos, I just want to go back real quickly and talk about that red card for a second because, like you said, Jackson Conway came on and then he was sent off immediately. I didn't see it. It was a little bit off the play, so I had to go back and we asked the Rowdies PR guy what exactly happened there, and apparently it was an elbow. So I don't know if this is something that you caught on the highlights afterwards, but yeah, Jackson Conway apparently elbowed. I believe it was Connor Antley, and Connor Antley and him supposedly had some bad blood going back to playing Atlanta last year. And that's that was all of the stuff that we heard going back through everybody's take on everything. It was just so weird because I didn't think about that. I didn't know that, and like I said, I didn't actually see the play. It was off the ball, so it was kind of weird. But anyway, Carlos, I took you off of the track that we were on there. So
no, that's a good point. It's a good point to go back to. It's interesting too because I do recall Antley having some beef in particular with Atlanta United too, and in the past, I think we've mentioned this before. Just some beef in general with like some of the B teams in this league. I don't know if you've noticed that. He'll always kind of get into it with the kids, just kind of making sure they know that this is a grown man they're playing against. And in this case, maybe Conway remembered some of that, and evidently it didn't work out for him. Immediately sent off, and still Rowdies come up with the 2-0 win. So let's go back to that, James. Take it away. First half.
So with the first half, we ended up doing pretty well. Obviously, there were not only the 2 goals that were scored, but I think that we could say that there were a lot of chances created in that first half as well. So very much, I think that this is a big point for pretty much all Rowdies teams. But of course, we were heavily favored to go down the wings and try and build up that way.
Sure.
Lewis Hilton is still out, and I asked after the game where we were with him. Apparently, he is kind of week to week, but not like exactly on the, like he should be back this week. We're just waiting to see, he should be back next week. If not, like, I don't think that it's that case, but we don't have a specific time frame on that. So with him being out, I guess that we'll just have to continue to work with the players that we have in the midfield. And that has actually turned out pretty well. Jordan Doherty is the more defensive player from this past weekend where he lined up alongside Jan Ecker and Charlie Dennis, kind of playing as 2 number 10s or 2 number 8s, however you want to look at it. But he did a good enough job. I think that mostly it was just taking the ball out to the fullbacks themselves and trying to kind of build up the wings that way. And Ryan Spaulding is a player who has played as a left winger, a left wing back, and a left back. So effectively, he was able to not only impose himself on the field as an attacker, but he was able to switch positions with Aaron Guillen and kind of give Aaron Guillen some room to run into. And by doing that, he could often drag players out of the space that he wanted to open up. And, that obviously gave somebody some space to run into naturally. So that is how that kind of happened on the left. And then on the right, Connor Antley is a player, obviously, who has played as a right back and a right wing back. So, he's pretty adept at getting forward. Dayon Harris is not quite as adept at getting back to defend. So he was kind of able to step into the attack more. But I think that it was just like Jordan Doherty was able to step back into the position where Connor Antley might have vacated when he moved up the field, so that they still had some cover back there. And I think that Jordan Doherty did a pretty good job of making sure that not only was there all this cover, but he also had a fair few recovery runs. And I thought that he did very well in that role. But to bring it back to where we started on the wings, the wingers did just a very good job in that interchange that I was talking about. And the wing backs, or fullbacks in this case, were immense in terms of their ability to interplay, and they could pass the ball back and forth and kind of get around Phoenix. I also thought that it was weird for Phoenix to put Carlos Harvey at center back. So Carlos Harvey was just returning from a red card suspension when he played us, and he is almost always a central midfielder. In fact, I don't know that I've ever seen him line up as a center back, which isn't nowhere near all of his career, but it's a fair few games. Either way, I had never seen him play there, and I don't know that it worked entirely well for Phoenix. They continued with it, although he did kind of switch positions, like, to step into a bit of a deeper role. But yeah, I think that it just kind of, all of those things kind of came together to allow us to get down the wings, not however we wanted, but a lot, quite a bit. And it wasn't exactly as open as it was against Detroit, let's say, for us to do that. But I think that we were still very capable of doing it. And it did lead to the first goal, as you mentioned. JJ Williams got on the end of that. It wasn't the exact same kind of buildup that led to the free kick where Charlie Dennis scored his. But Charlie Dennis and Jan Ecker were both heavily involved in, making sure that those players who were out on the wings had an option in the middle who could then facilitate the play either onward up the wing or out to the other side. So, that was really good to see. And I think that it's actually getting to be a little bit better that we are seeing, what the Rowdies are capable of. I think with Lewis Hilton not being available at this point, we're having to play a way that is different from how Neil Collins would probably have us line up. But if you remember back to the beginning of the season, he was trying to play with 4 at the back for the most part. And then he kind of switched to 3 when, our first couple of games weren't going so well. So possibly this is actually what he wants to move to. Yeah. And if that's the case, then, these are obviously some positive signs.
Yeah. And I really enjoy kind of the defensive formation we're rocking with, because I think Kleeman is a fantastic defender. And he's a player that should be starting at any USL team, really. Lasso, same thing. I mean, that goes without saying. Forrest Lasso is a fantastic defender and should be starting wherever he is. So I really enjoy having both of them in the back line at the same time. I know there was kind of that spell briefly where Lasso kind of started on the bench and then came off the bench kind of later in the game. Having them both in, assisted by 2 fullbacks, is really nice. And I think that's kind of part of the reason why we're starting to see this, I guess, recent trend upward in terms of our defensive performances and these back-to-back shutouts. It looks really good and it played really well against Phoenix. I recall after our first goal, kind of in the middle of the first half, Phoenix had a few pretty good-looking chances, penetrated our midfield pretty well and got behind our guys. But I don't really recall Kleeman or Lasso or any of these guys on the back line really messing up or anything. I feel like they really tracked back pretty well. There were a couple of pretty dangerous opportunities for Phoenix that could have ended up in a goal. But our back line, I think, did a fantastic job in shutting them down before they became, real opportunities to end up in the back of the net. So I was really happy with how they played. The wings, like you said, had a generally good game. I'm waiting for a little more from Dayon. You know what I mean? It's like obviously he has the talent to be like a fantastic player. Something's not clicking yet with him, and that's fine. Again, we've been managing now in these past couple of games, but if we can get a little more from him, we'd be golden. I think truly. I mean, Dayon, he had at least one really good look on goal, which could have very easily ended up in the goal, but I think it was a pretty decent save from the Phoenix goalie. Pretty tight angle coming in from the side and ripped a shot. I think a goal or two is due for him in the next couple games.
I'd like to see, if I can just cut you off for a second,
No, yeah,
Carlos.
go
I'd
for
like
it.
to see Dayon like turn all of, because we know obviously we've seen him put in a lot of good plays, a lot of hard work over the last couple of seasons. What he really needs is the final execution there. If we, you just mentioned a goal that we probably wanted to see, we probably should have seen, and if we take it back to the last week versus Detroit City, that was one where Deion Harris had effectively a wide open goal, and he just couldn't put it on target there. So, yeah, I would like to see Deion Harris get the reward for all of the work that he's doing, because you and I know that he's doing it, and we've seen it.
Sorry, my laptop just broke for a second there. That was strange. I've been having some weird issues with this computer, James. It just starts freezing up on me. But I got most of what you were saying. I think like if that Dayon kind of that wing that he's on starts to click, I think we'll truly start seeing everything kind of firing on all cylinders, because he's so good. He's so rapid. If he can, like you said, kind of work on that final execution. I don't know if you recall a couple seasons ago, more than that now. If you recall Malik Johnson kind of playing on the wing, he was kind of like the player that I'm hoping Dayon grows into, hopefully sooner rather than later. Malik had a great tendency to kind of play like Leo Fernandez did when Leo was on the wing, take on a couple guys and take them on well, dribble around, and then once he found that angle he needed, rip a shot into like the bottom corner. Malik was able to do that really well for us when he played with us. If Dayon can kind of work on that a bit more, we're looking at a really good situation on that side of things. Again, I think generally speaking, he's been having good games, and I think the production's coming for him. A couple assists are definitely due on his end of things. But interestingly, like maybe not much of a point at all, but I was looking at the bench here for this past week's game against Phoenix. I was kind of taken aback that we didn't really make too many subs, like too many meaningful subs throughout the game. It was really just Dayon in the 74th minute. And then after that, it was an 86th and 90th minute sub for Charlie Dennis and JJ Williams, respectively. And they brought in Jennings and Schroeder. I'm curious. I wonder if the injuries maybe are starting to rack up. I don't really know what the status is with Ervo, or even if he is injured at all. He wasn't on the bench at all this past weekend. Obviously, Lewis Hilton's kind of week to week, like you said. But there wasn't, like, if you take a look at the bench, we have Mkosana, Martinez, Schroeder, and Jennings. It's 4 forwards. And then you had Dahlgaard, Tate Johnson, and Breno. So Dahlgaard was really the only midfielder. Tate Johnson could kind of play wing back / defender, and then a goalie. So it's interesting. I'm wondering, I'm hoping that doesn't really play too much of a factor going forward. I don't think it will. Hopefully everybody starts to get healthy. But I'm where Ervo is, and if you know anything about that, James, maybe we can kind of figure that out this weekend. And I wonder if the kind of 4 in the back situation that we're rocking with is going, or is playing it risky at all, right? Because we don't really have too many other backup defenders other than Tate Johnson. Something to think about. But I think,
I will say, so that was something that I asked Neil Collins about in the press conference, and he said what he said about Lewis Hilton, but we also wanted to know about, Jake Ehrman and Zach Harivo. He said that Zach Harivo was pulled out, I think, as a precautionary instance. It wasn't necessarily something that, he is out because of this injury that we know takes this long to heal. I think there was just, felt like a twinge, and then he was like, yeah, maybe wait it out. And I did see him walking around in like the polo and everything, so he was there. But as you said, he was not dressed. Jake Ehrman, I believe, was also listed as roughly week to week. He's back in training at this point, I believe. I was told by Neil, and then as long as he can round it back into shape, then he will be able to get back into it. But we have to see how the training for him goes, and at this point they weren't able to give us time frames, I will say that. But it sounds like Haribo Hilton, Jake Ehrman, these are guys that are out with a range of issues, but they are issues that shouldn't be like a Leo Fernandez injury, for instance.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know what that's going to turn into, but if we have to go into the loan market, we've already done that so far, and I guess it's worked out at the moment. But I don't know if there are more on the horizon.
Right. That was my point I was going to make too. Honestly, I think the Spaulding loan move is kind of indicative of just kind of taking the extra precaution of bringing in a player who can kind of slot in while we recover and kind of get our guys back to full health. But this isn't just a guy that's kind of filling the role. This is a guy that had played a fantastic game, by the way. Like Spaulding had a really good game.
Yeah, he did.
Got himself an assist. It seemed like he was trying to just find his footing in his first couple games, in the San Diego game and then the Detroit game. Detroit game, he had a pretty good game against Detroit. San Diego looked like he was trying to just kind of gel with the team a little bit still. And then this game, I noticed him really standing out in all the right ways. Like you said, tracking back well, full of energy. Seemed like he was running all 90 minutes. And when he got up, didn't seem to take on too many guys, didn't try to dribble through anybody, but seemed to put in good enough crosses, and then the one perfect cross that led to the goal. Great sense of field awareness with that interplay with Charlie Dennis was just so cool to watch. As a fan watching that on ESPN, it felt like a FIFA move, right? The little 1-2. That was beautiful to watch. So I mean, listen, I think I trust the Rowdies to go out and if we need to go out and find somebody who can come play on loan for the season. And find somebody that can slot in well. My, I guess, wish list would be, if we're going out to get somebody on loan, that we pick up some sort of defender. Just because I have all the faith in the world in Tate Johnson. Don't get me wrong, but right now, other than him, there's not really a backup defender per se, other than Jordan Doherty, but he's starting in the midfield. So, I mean, what are you going to do about that?
Can't really have a starter as a backup.
Right, exactly. So, interesting dynamics to keep an eye on going forward. Maybe we'll see something in the next couple of weeks. But that was something I noticed, seeing how many forwards we had on the bench. But again, very good forwards we have on the bench. As far as attacking depth goes, we're pretty set. And especially if some of these guys kind of get going. And I don't know. I'm hesitant to say this game's kind of JJ Williams' breakout game or anything, but hey, you got to start somewhere, right?
It's his first league goal, so as you said, literally, you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, and he could have notched at least one more. Detroit's Phoenix's goalie made a really, really good save on one of his headers. Seems like he's a really good presence in the air, and he's kind of getting a hold of that. And again, I think that kind of comes from Spaulding and Harris kind of locking in those crosses. And again, I'm especially impressed with Spaulding's crosses and kind of field awareness to get the ball to JJ Williams well. I feel like that whole thing was a really long-winded way of saying I really liked how we played in that first half. And I don't have any particular qualms with how we played in the second half. It just kind of slowed down, I think.
Yeah.
Do you have any opinions on the second half? I feel like we just kind of got comfortable with that 2-0 lead and kind of sat.
I would say that's pretty much how I felt watching it. I don't think, Phoenix had a couple of chances in the first half. I was going into the press conference after the game, and I was going to ask Neil, how the Rowdies kind of shut Phoenix out from having any chances. And then I was like, oh no, wait, that wasn't quite the first half, but in the second half, I don't think that Phoenix got complacent or anything like that, but we certainly did a great job at preventing them from actually getting anywhere near the net, because I was ready to go in there and be like, so Neil, you didn't even let them have a chance. How did that happen? And that would have been wrong, but that was the angle I was about to take. So we did a very good job at dealing with them. I think that when it comes to the players that I was expecting Phoenix to cause problems with, like for one thing, I didn't see Fede Varela really have a ton of impact in this game. I didn't see Erickson Gallardo, and those are two very good dribblers. Those are two guys who can kind of make things happen on their own. Their ability is to just put people off effectively and just unbalance people on their own. But yeah, I didn't see that. And Manuel Arteaga, he'd had 3 goals up until then, and he can just kind of usually find some space and whip in a good shot because that's like one of his better abilities. I don't remember seeing that over the course of this game. And then the other player was Henry Uzuchukwu. I expected that Uzo, as they call him, I thought that he would have a good game, and then I didn't actually see him. So that kind of impacts obviously how he can play. But it was good that we were able to kind of prevent them. I think mostly we were able to prevent them from getting the ball in dangerous places.
Yeah,
because once they have the ball, they can just do so much with it. So it was a good job of shutting them down, and that comes back to an old Rowdies staple of just being good without the ball. I was watching the Manchester City game versus Real Madrid today, and one of the commentators was talking about how Real Madrid just looked the more comfortable team when they don't have the ball. And Man City, when they didn't have the ball, they were not panicking, but they were upset. They didn't like it. Right. And you could tell from the first part of the season, I think the Rowdies were also similar to that. Like they weren't necessarily panicking, but it was like, we could give up a goal anytime. This is not looking great. Yeah. And now the Rowdies without the ball are looking a lot better. They're looking a lot more comfortable. They're looking a lot more confident that they can go and they can win the ball in good areas.
Oh, yeah.
And that's all positive for where we're trying to go as a team, of course.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point to bring up, because if you look at the stats on FOTMob, you go back and it says Phoenix had 62% of the ball possession. We had 38% possession. And yet I don't particularly feel that once we got up 2-0 that our lead was ever truly in danger in the second half.
Right.
I think that's a testament to what you just said. Kind of being comfortable off the ball, knowing how to close out a game. And I think especially having mentioned what I said earlier about kind of the situation with lacking a bit of depth in the midfield and the back line. I think that's really important to be able to kind of sit back a bit, not waste too much of your energy. And kind of hold out to be able to close the game with the guys you have on the field. And they did a great job. I think a lot of that kind of comfort in being comfort off the ball comes from Jordan Doherty. I want to give him a shout out because he's been having a really good season pretty quietly, I'd say.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, it's one of those players, and I think one of those positions that naturally doesn't really end up on the stat sheet too often. But it certainly doesn't mean that he's not putting in any effort or that he's not, affecting the result in any way, because I'd say he had, he's kind of like the main factor in my eyes in terms of being comfortable without the ball.
Exactly.
He's one of those guys that knows how to defend really well, so can track back, obviously, but knows how to put a bit of pressure on if needed to. I'm really happy with how he's been playing. Did you notice the high press at the beginning of the game for a little bit that we were running with?
Yeah, I think, and that's what the Rowdies are known for. That's what we actually, as a team, are known for. So
yeah, I was
good to see back.
I was a little put off by that. I wasn't fully expecting that. Kind of at the beginning of the game, watching that, seeing JJ Williams again. He's a pretty bulky guy. He's a big dude. Not somebody that I expect to be too fast or have the stamina to run like that for 90 minutes. He's certainly somebody that impressed me with that because beginning of the game he was really chasing down their goalie. What's his name? I always forget his name. Rocco's Rio Novo. Sick name. JJ Williams kind of chasing him down, chasing the back line down, putting the extra pressure that kept giving us the ball in the first half and ultimately led to our most dangerous chances, including the goal. So I'm really happy with that. It just feels like that Rowdies soccer energy, the Rowdies soccer attitude, kind of the style of play and imposition of our style of play
Yeah.
during a game is back. And especially like again, Phoenix isn't necessarily like a top table team at this very moment, but it doesn't mean they're not good. Like this is a team that's pretty loaded, like you said, in terms of like attacking quality, especially their guys. They have some pretty good guys that can rip a shot and create some really dangerous opportunities. Fede Varela in particular, kind of being that random signing of the summer that came from out of nowhere. I think he played for like what it was CSKA Sofia in Bulgaria before coming to Phoenix. But a guy that really knows how to play. Arteaga, like you said, can let up really get up a good looking shot, can create opportunities, and again, I'm just really happy with the press that kind of put them off. And then when they did have the ball, the Doherty kind of led comfort off the ball. All of that worked out really, really well. And I can't really point to something that didn't go the Rowdies' way in this particular game. So, yeah, I think that summarizes my attitude in the game. Happy, looking for a little more out of Deion Harris to kind of bring it all together. I'm hoping for a bit more depth and who knows, maybe a little loan signing for the back line to solidify that depth, right?
I think the only thing that didn't go the Rowdies' way was possibly Connor Antley's nose upon getting an elbow. But
Right.
other than
Right.
that, yeah, it was pretty smooth sailing. So, Carlos, I think that we've gone through this game in pretty good depth here. Unless you have any extra points, we might as well move into man of the match.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, who was your man of the match then and why?
Yeah, I'll jump right into it and say that my man of the match was most certainly Charlie Dennis. He is a guy that has been kind of, I don't want to say unsuccessfully, but they're big shoes to fill, right? He's been trying to fill Leo Fernandez's shoes. And that's a really, really tough job to do because Leo Fernandez was the MVP last year. And it seems like Charlie Dennis is kind of starting to get comfortable with understanding that he has to kind of be the guy in some situations. He just had such a fantastic first half. And again, I point back to that first goal. He didn't have to do much, but what he did is really, really difficult to do. That interplay with Spaulding on the wing where Spaulding kind of just touched it to him. Charlie Dennis in a fourth of a second, like a quarter second, has to see where Spaulding's going, make the decision, and then effectively make that pass. Just taps it perfectly back to Spaulding, where Spaulding puts in a great cross for JJ Williams. But that play doesn't happen without Charlie Dennis. Charlie Dennis is fully captaining that midfield right now, controlling the flow of the play, and keeping defenders, opposing defenders, really on their heels when he's driving at them. He's a guy that I think is getting a lot more comfortable with this team as the season progresses, and hopefully starts letting a few more shots fly from the edge of the box, kind of a la Leo Fernandez, right? And I think there's a lot more to come from him. Obviously, that second goal was beautiful. Like I really can't get over that, and him going over to celebrate with the kids on the sideline was awesome to see too. I don't know if you recall that. He was having a blast over there with the kids. But it was such a beautiful free kick. I mean, yeah. I can't not give him the man of the match, especially after that free kick. Really controlling the flow in the midfield, and I'm expecting a lot more from him as he gets more comfortable with this game.
Yeah, I think that he, like you said, is just growing into it, and I'm really happy to see that from just a fan perspective. In all honesty,
Yeah, exactly.
my man of the match choice is going to be Ryan Spaulding. Ryan Spaulding for, I believe, now the second week in a row for me. Ryan Spaulding had his first assist for the Rowdies this past weekend, but I wanted to note this is something that I had in the preview article, which will be coming out later this week. The 3 games that he has played for us in the league, he has already had 1 assist. That's a relatively good return, not that outstanding on its own, but I think that what we should also be aware of is he has actually created 5 big chances, at least according to FOTMob. So I assume that they use XG, expected goals by, most of the other metrics. But either way, yeah, he has created 5 big chances for the Rowdies. That's pretty dang good. I think that Ryan Spaulding's influence on this team is pretty apparent, in all honesty. He knows how to switch positions with whether it's Aaron Guillen or if it's somebody else behind him. He knows how to step back when he needs to make sure that there is cover, or he can drag somebody out of position and then allow one of his teammates to go up there and move into that space. So he does a lot with the ball, without the ball. I think that he's just a very smart player, and so far I love his signing move. I think that we are better off for having him on the team.
Yeah, the field awareness that he's displayed. I don't think I noticed it as much as you did in the game against Detroit, but especially this past game, it was really, really cool to see. It seems like he's getting really quickly, really comfortable with this team, which is really nice to see. Kind of what you want out of a loanee. So fantastic to see him get comfortable so quickly. Kind of the definition, I think, of a high IQ wingback and winger. So I'm expecting big things from him too. I mean, who knows? Maybe Jake Armand without a starting job for a little bit, right?
Yeah. It's definitely something that I guess we don't have to take into consideration, but somebody does.
Somebody who gets paid to do this.
Exactly.
Will have to.
Exactly. So now we will move on to the preview for the upcoming game. But before we do so, just want to say, of course, liking and subscribing to our show is free, and we appreciate when you do that. But if you think that you might need some new threads coming up this year for the rest of the season, you can go to shop.rblrsports.com and check out our team shop there. We have a lot of cool shirts that you might want to buy if you view them. I think that there are some good options available here, as you see to my I guess it would be left on the screen, but it's pretty cool that we have a lot of good stuff on there, and I think that if you actually do check it out, you will like it. And we do have, as well as all of the awesome designs, a 10% off discount for you. So please use COYR and you get that 10% off at your final checkout. And please help us out that way too. Now, Carlos, if you could get us started on the preview, because this weekend we have another game.
Yeah, right. Does it sound familiar? Rowdies versus Detroit City. It's weird, right? For the second time in 3 weeks, the Tampa Bay Rowdies played Detroit, but this time back home in St. Petersburg. The Rowdies now, with this past win, have improved to 6th place on 11 points, while Detroit is in 11th on 5 points. It's so much nicer to see the Rowdies at least kind of in the middle of the table than in second to last place, as it was a couple weeks ago. So lovely seeing that. 2 draws and 3 losses in the past 5 games for Detroit City. So they've gone winless so far in these last 5. We shouldn't expect many differences from the last time we played. Not a lot of time to make any big signings or huge tactical adjustments. They have 1 more goal and no more assists since the last time we met. They lined up against Tulsa the same way they did against us. Not much else to say about them. Detroit seems to really be struggling this season, James. Highly unfortunate. USL Tactics was right in the offseason, if you recall that.
Wow, actually, I hadn't thought of that. That is a good point.
Yeah, if you recall him getting some flack from the Detroit City fans.
A lot of flack.
Yeah. And maybe it's too early to say I told you so on his part, but maybe not. They're not doing too hot, James. I don't know. I feel like we should expect a shutout, hopefully. If we continue this streak, a 2-game streak of shutouts and wins, you're going to have a tactical preview article coming out soon. Looking forward to reading that, where we'll break down, I guess, the tactics a bit more. But this game, James, I mean, listen, I feel like we justifiably won 2 weeks ago, or last weekend against Detroit in Detroit. I don't see why. Again, I'm kind of spoiling my prediction, but I don't see why we shouldn't be able to bring that same energy back home to St. Petersburg and get the win at home, hopefully in a more dominant fashion than the penalty goal Charlie Dennis scored against them over there. Again, the boys scoring a bit more now, a couple goals in this past game. If I recall correctly, that game against Detroit, I tweeted and described it as kind of the best game you can have without scoring an open play goal. Yeah. So we played really well, but we just didn't score, an open play goal, right? We scored that penalty. That's kind of been the theme of the season early on, is a lack of open play scoring. We had a free kick goal in the past game, which is beautiful. I mean, not discounting that at all. Hopefully we just get some more of like the JJ Williams headers like we did in that first half. That being said, James, tell me what you think about this game and then give us your prediction. I'm hoping it's more optimistic than we've seen in the past couple of weeks from you.
Yes, this game will definitely be a lot more optimistic. I guess I was feeling, just because we were in a rut similar to Detroit City when we played them last time, that it might not go our way. But I think that this one will certainly be different, not only because we won that day, but we have won since then too. So, if we look back at them just a little bit on the tactic side, they do still line up in the 3-4-3 unless that changes. But that is what they have preferred all season, including against us and including against Tulsa the week after they lost to us. So I don't see any reason why we should expect them to change that. Now, Nate Steinwasser is a relatively good goalkeeper. He has helped keep Detroit City in games because as much as they have not won very many, if any, they have also only given up one goal in all of the games that they have lost, which is weird. They gave up one goal against us, of course. They gave up one goal last week against Tulsa, but that was after they had already scored. So they do have, the benefit there, I guess, of already having had one on the board. And it should also be noted that the right wing back for the game last week, Reese Williams, was sent off. He will not be playing against us, obviously. So I assume that the player who will take his place is O'Neal Fisher, who was the right wing back against us 2 weeks ago. All of those things kind of come into play. Additionally, when we played against them, Maxi Rodriguez was a factor, and he was not involved last week in their game. So he was not a starter, and I'm not entirely sure why, but Abdoulaye Diop is the guy who started for him, and he is also the guy who scored. So obviously, relatively important there. Ben Morris is going to continue to be not the focal point of the attack in the sense that he's going to get the ball and try to, turn players, get a shot off, or they're going to play a lot of, hit with his back to goal, and they can use him as a wall the way that we might have used Steven Dos Santos at times when he was here. But Ben Morris is going to be a player who is going to be involved just because of his movement, and he's going to kind of lead the team in that sense, where he can drag players out of position and show in places where they kind of have to follow him. It did partially lead to the goal that they scored this past weekend against Tulsa. I don't know if it will continue to be a problem because they sorted it out right after that goal was scored, and I think that we should be able to sort it out as well relatively quickly. If not, from the jump, we should be planning for it already. That's kind of where we are. So I will go ahead and I will give my prediction for this game. I am going to say 3-1 to the Rowdies.
3-1. I'm not sure I can confidently agree that we'll score 3 goals yet. I'm not sure I'm there yet, especially with how Steinwasser has been kind of keeping Detroit in these games. He single-handedly cuffed them in the game against us up until that penalty. If you recall, we had some really, really good-looking chances that probably should have been goals. He had a fantastic game. So I'm gonna say we break the 1-goal streak against that Detroit's kind of been having, but I'm gonna say we score 2, give up none, and we win again 2-0. So back-to-back 2-0 wins for us. I'm curious. I mean, I don't see Neil breaking with what worked this past weekend, so I assume JJ Williams will be our starter once again. I'm curious what the plan is going forward with Cal Jennings, who's kind of seen as this guy that would produce a lot for us, score a lot of goals. Kind of with this formation that we're rocking with now, it doesn't really open up space for a second striker. Right now, if we stick with that formation, it's really one or the other, and I don't see why we would move from JJ Williams after the game he had. So I'm going to say JJ Williams scores a header again, and who else scores? Deion Harris.
I would like to see that.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say JJ Williams gets another header. Deion Harris cuts into the box and rips a shot, a la Leo Fernandez when he was on the wing. And we'll win 2-0. Backline going to have another masterclass. I would like to see Cal Jennings come in maybe a little earlier than this past game and see if we can kind of get him involved in scoring against a team that's struggling right now. Maybe get him going as well. But again, this formation is only kind of conducive to only one striker. So Neil Collins is going to have a bit of a discussion to have with his coaching staff on that side of things. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this game. I think we should come out with the win, like I said. Looking forward to it. Hopefully we can put up more goals than 2, like you said, though. I would like 3 goals for sure. That'd be nice to see.
Well, I will say I do like your prediction that Dayon Harris might get a goal here, because in watching the highlights of Detroit City versus Tulsa, Marcus Epps was the left winger in Tulsa's roughly 3-4-3, I think is how it was listed formation. And Epps was involved in 2 plays that led to Tulsa hitting the post. So they scored, Detroit City scored, and then Tulsa started coming back into the game. Ultimately, they hit the post twice. One of them was a very nice, little interplay on the left side. Marcus Epps was involved in that. And then I forget who it was who got the shot off that hit the post. But the second one, Epps was over on the left side and he cut in. And from there, he hit the post. So, yeah, it's probably looking up like a player like Dayon Harris could possibly be that kind of guy this game.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of hitting the post, he actually puts it in the net.
Exactly. Or maybe on the other side of things, it's Spaulding. Spaulding gets his goal. Again, he's playing really well, so maybe it's his time to notch a goal for the green and gold. He's already got the assist. You're just missing that goal. So
yeah,
maybe both of them score. I don't know. You said 3 goals, so maybe it's JJ Williams, Harris, and Spaulding. I would like that. That'd be cool.
That would be an awesome display of just how the Rowdies can attack in the future. I would love to see that.
Exactly. It's coming. It really is. I'm kind of that mindset that although it's been a slower start than we would have hoped, things are kind of looking up in that sense that we're at least showing a preview of what we can really do at full potential. So let's continue that momentum and make sure that this past couple games have been not just like a pretty good run of games, but a turning point in the season. To get us back to where we belong up there, and at least in the top 3. I mean, this team's built for it, James. So hopefully that happens sooner rather than later.
Yeah, let's continue that. That would be great. All right, so Carlos, let's move to extra time. Just want to say, first, congratulations to 3 Rowdies from this past weekend. They were named to the USL Team of the Week. Those are Ryan Spaulding, Charlie Dennis, and JJ Williams. Again, congratulations to all of them. I think that it was well deserved, and 2 of them were in our own player of the week, or player of the game, I guess. But man of the match. And they turned that over to the USL as well. So congratulations on a well-deserved award from actually the league and not just, RBLR Sports.
Very well-deserved. Although some people are saying the RBLR Sports man of the match might be worth more than the USL Team of the Week. That's what the people are saying on Twitter. So I don't know. Take that as you will. By the people, I think I'm mostly just being me, but I don't know. I mean, I've heard some conversations out there about that. So who knows? Maybe who was it? Maybe JJ Williams is kind of pissed off that he didn't get on the the RBLR man of the match kind of side of things.
He needs a chip on his shoulder to go and get that goal.
Exactly right. Exactly.
And Carlos, if you could take us to the next point here in our extra time segment.
Yeah. And going back to what we said earlier, we'll remind everybody that RBLR is hosting our first ever watch party on Saturday, May 20th at Berry House, located off the strip in Ybor. Like James mentioned earlier, there'll be plenty of swag giveaways, beer specials. I'm 21 now, so that's fantastic. And a pregame show where we'll be talking about the Rowdies live before we get things underway with the watch party. Rowdies versus Rio Grande Valley Toros. James, Eureka, everybody's listening right now. I can't imagine a better place to be than sharing in the camaraderie of the Rowdies faithful with a bunch of free stuff watching the game. Why not, right? It's going to be a blast. Everybody should pull up. I think everybody's going to have a good time. So take advantage of all the free stuff. Let's make this something we can do regularly, right?
That's what we're all hoping for, obviously. We would love to turn this into a regular thing So please do show up to the first one, and you can say that you were there.
Yeah.
Our last point is the USL has a new president in Paul McDonough. Paul McDonough was previously involved with a couple teams in MLS, first Atlanta United, then Inter Miami. The Inter Miami years did not go so well. So there was actually a lot of controversy about this online. I saw a lot of people complaining on Twitter. Do you have any takes, Carlos? I don't know that I do at this point, but I'd be interested to see what you would say.
Honestly, I'm not very well read on this kind of thing. I saw the reaction on Twitter, but I fully don't know enough to really give a take. I think my take is I hope he does well. So, I mean, the rest of the league, so the rest of the league succeeds. There's a lot of momentum. The USL is riding on a lot of momentum right now. Really, really doing things, I think, well, in most, if not all regards. USL very much killing the game. So I hope that this new president, Paul McDonough, can take that momentum and keep things going for this league that, again, plenty of momentum, doing something special. Lots of cool stuff going with the USL. And I wish him all the best. And then who knows? Nobody knows what the future has in store. So hopefully good things for him and the rest of the USL.
Yeah, absolutely. I will look into it. We'll try to get an article out there, but there were also already some articles done, including by at USL Tactics, John Morrissey. John Morrissey is my go-to, my guru on all things USL. So I'm going to go through that and see, what he's thinking about this, because it's very interesting.
Detroit public enemy #1.
Yeah, and apparently, not the Detroit City guru. But
I guess the Detroit City. He was right. I mean, they're not doing well. He was right. I mean, he's just stating the truth, man. I love John.
You can state the truth, but there are going to be some people who fight it. I think that we can expand that beyond soccer, but let's just keep it in the realm of USL for the time being.
There you go. We'll close with a little social commentary. How about that?
Wow. Look at RBLR Sports. Imagine where we have gone. Well, thank you, listeners, for tuning in this week. We obviously appreciate when you do that every week, but in particular, we just went through some really fun stuff, and it was not so fun for a couple of shows here. And Carlos, you and I actually got to do a fun one, so this was great. And I'm happy that we were able to say, like, hey, we're breaking down a win today.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. That was a good episode. Vibes are great. I'm feeling good, and let's just go get this W this weekend.
Exactly. So please follow at RBLR Sports. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can get at me if you would like on Twitter. I am at RBLR James K. What about you, Carlos?
At Carlos TPA10 on Twitter. I found myself recently tweeting a lot about the Rays. I'm even wearing this Rays jersey now. I had to rep them. They're playing against the O's. I don't even like baseball that much. It's just been something I started watching recently, like the last couple of years, and Rays have been kind of capturing my attention this season with how well they've been playing. They've been making baseball pretty fun for me. So I've been enjoying watching that, been tweeting a lot about them, obviously tweeting a lot about the Rowdies. Lots of fun stuff happening on both sides of the organization, I guess, the baseball side and the soccer side. So drop a follow at Carlos CPA10. And as always, hashtag #AskRBLR with any questions. We'll be sure to take a look at those every episode.
Exactly. All right. And of course, we ask that you like and subscribe to the podcast. If you have gotten this far, we assume you have. But if you haven't, what are you doing? You got to do that. Please like and subscribe, and obviously tell other people to do the same. You can get the full experience watching us on YouTube and actually see how we are working through it in real time, if that is something that you are interested in. And if you would like to just listen to us, that's perfectly fine as well. We are on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app. We're on Apple and Google Podcasts. We are wherever podcasts are. So for another win and another shutout, come on, you Rowdies.
I got a haircut. Come look at my hair on YouTube.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.